All sessions we have to start in time, we have to end in time.
Good evening, members. I, C.A. Raj Chawla, welcome you all in this webathon on decoding income tax law. In our today's session, we will cover concept of income and residential status, section 3, 4, 5, and 6 by C.A. Sunil Arora ji. It is my pleasure to welcome C.A. Sunil Arora ji, a very senior chartered accountant, who will speak of this seminar, and I am thankful for sparing his valuable time to guide us. Our today session chairman is Advocate C. Aseem Chawla ji, a very senior corporate lawyer, and our mentor of this session is C.A. Sunil Garg. Welcome, Sunil ji. Dear members, in the inauguration of our webathon, around 4,000 members viewed our webinar on general introduction of income tax by C.A. Girish Ahuja ji. We have planned this series of 40 sessions in 4 months, every Wednesday and Saturday, 4 to 6 p.m. I request all the members to please join and watch our this webathon. And now I request C.A. Sunil Garg to please take up this webathon. Sunil ji, please.
First of all, thank you, Raji, for your continuous efforts towards the profession, lighting the lamps and spreading the knowledge. And I am very much thankful to Shri Aseem Chawla ji, who actually, I mooted the idea, but he made this idea a reality. The whole course, how to, what course we have to conduct, what modules and what topics of interest, of professional interest should be taken up. He has been a mentor to this course, friends, and now this is day 2 of that session. As Raji mentioned, around 40 webinars we are going to have to cover this journey of Income Tax Act and allied laws. And on day 1, Mr. I.P. Bansal, while inaugurating this session, he said, Article 265 of the Constitution says, no tax shall be collected or levied without authority of law. देखिए, मैं हमेशा कहता हूं कि सेक्शन 4, 5, 6 और 9 ये 4 सेक्शंस पहले पढ़ने पड़ेंगे अगर आपको इनकम टैक्स एक्ट को समझना है और उसको जानना है. क्योंकि हम लोग गलती क्या करते हैं, हम सीधा हेड ऑफ इनकम पे चले जाते हैं, क्योंकि हम बिजनेस में बहुत ज्यादा काम करते हैं तो बिजनेस इनकम के बारे में बहुत सोचते हैं. बट विदाउट अंडरस्टैंडिंग 4, 5, 6 and 9, the journey couldn't be started. And we are having 2 sessions for that. Today, one of the star speakers, Sri Sunil Arora ji, will take section 4, 5 and 6. And on coming Wednesday, our Aseem Chawla ji will be taking section 9. Just to set the tone of the webinar, what I understood about this section 4, 5, 9, as I said, friends, कि Article 265 कहता है कि साहब आप अथॉरिटी के बिना, without the authority of law, you cannot collect the taxes. और ये Constitution
245,
265 sir, article.
Okay, go ahead.
And then there is a division between the state and central governments, and 7 schedules. Entry 82 says that taxes on income other than agriculture income has to be levied by the central government. And section 4 of the Income Tax Act, that gives the central government to enact act and to charge the tax at the rate prescribed. Now, in our India, in our country, basically we are charging tax on the basis of residence. That is section 6. But the relevance of section 5 is so much because we charge tax on total income. And total income, बड़ी छोटी सी definition है, बड़ी काम की definition है. Total income is amount of income referred to in section 5 and computed as per the provision of this act. तो सेक्शन 5 में जो इनकम बताई गई, जो स्कोप ऑफ टोटल इनकम है, देखिए टैक्स टोटल इनकम पर लगना है और कंप्यूटेशन मैकेनिज्म जो दे रखा है, इसका मतलब है कि पहले एक इनकम हो 2 क्लॉज 24 में जो फॉल करे, फिर वो स्कोप ऑफ टोटल इनकम में उसकी टैक्सेबिलिटी ये बताएगा कि साहब नॉन रेजिडेंट केस में क्या होगा, रेजिडेंट केस में क्या होगा, एनओआर के केस में क्या होगा. तो आज हम इस सेक्शन 5 को डिकोड करेंगे और सेक्शन 5 में जैसे हम सुनते हैं कि रेजिडेंट के केस में क्या है कि आपकी इनकम डीम टू एक्रू और अराइज इन इंडिया, डीम टू रिसीव और इन इंडिया, लेकिन जब उसकी ग्लोबल इनकम टैक्स करते हैं तो वहां पे केवल एक्रू और अराइज आउट ऑफ इंडिया, क्योंकि डीमिंग प्रोविजन हम विदेश में थोड़ा लगा सकते हैं. वी विल सी द निटिग्रिटीज ऑफ ऑल दीज थिंग्स. एंड फाइनेंस एक्ट 2020 बहुत बड़ा चेंज फाइनेंस एक्ट 2020 में किया था, क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ पे टैक्सिंग स्ट्रक्चर है रेजिडेंस बेस्ड टैक्सेशन हम लगाते हैं. तो फाइनेंस एक्ट 2020 ने दो चीजें बड़ी चेंज की. एक तो ये चेंज किया कि डीम्ड रेजिडेंसी का कंसेप्ट लेके आ गए 6(1) कैपिटल ए. तो मैं अरोड़ा जी से कहूंगा कि 6(1) कैपिटल ए की क्या निटिग्रिटी है, बड़ी ह्यू एंड क्राई हुई थी. और जब फाइनल एक्ट पास हुआ तो फिर कहा कि साहब डीम्ड रेजिडेंट विल बी ए नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट. और दूसरी बात क्या कही थी कि जो पर्सन ऑफ इंडियन ओरिजिन और इंडियन सिटीजन, देखिए रेजिडेंस बेस्ड टैक्स है लेकिन इंडियन सिटीजन भी कहीं ना कहीं एक्ट में आता है. तो पर्सन ऑफ इंडियन ओरिजिन और इंडियन सिटीजन जो पहले 181 दिन तक इंडिया में आ भी जाते थे तो उनको रेजिडेंस नॉन रेजिडेंट का स्टेटस रहता था. उसको कम कर दिया कि अगर आपकी इंडिया में 15 लाख रुपए की इनकम इंडियन सोर्सेज से है तो आप 120 दिन के बाद में एनओआर हो जाओगे, और अगर 15 लाख से नहीं है तो फिर वही पुराना 181 दिन चलेगा आपका. इनकी निटिग्रिटीज क्या है, इससे क्या फर्क पड़ता है टैक्सेबिलिटी पे, चार्जेबिलिटी पे क्या फर्क पड़ता है, ये सारी बातें आज हम समझेंगे सुनील अरोड़ा जी से. नाउ आई हैंड ओवर द माइक अगेन टू राज चावला जी फॉर नेक्स्ट प्रोसीडिंग्स. थैंक यू फ्रेंड्स.
Thank you, CA Sunil Gargi. Now I request our session chairman, Advocate C. Aseem Chawla ji, to please say few words.
Thank you, Raji. Thank you to Garg Saab for his usual charitable words. I mean, if any, I mean, we will end up giving credit to each other, but Sunil ji's effort unquestionably is paramount in this particular pursuit of Raji of knowledge dissemination. I will not take much time because I think everybody, including us and the delegates present virtually, are very keen to hear Sunil ji here. My fondness for him goes back to very many years when he is still one of the guardians of the accountancy profession, but at that point in time he was at the rostrum of I think our regional council and has done very well. Picking forward from what Garg Saab said, and maybe I didn't hear it correctly, he was referring to 265, and I thought for a moment he's referring to 245. Article 245 of the Constitution deals with the legislative competence, and Parliament may make laws for any part of the territory of India. And if you look at Section 1, subsection 2, the Income Tax Act extends to whole of India, and India is a defined term in Section 2, subsection 25. I'm sure all of you have read the definition of what is India in the definition provision. Now, if you look at what Sunil ji will extensively take through in the ensuing in the ensuing about 100 odd minutes, which we've requested him to do, is to focus on these pillar provisions, as Garg Saab did said, that you ought to be very mindful of Section 4 onwards, which is encapsulated in Chapter 2, which is titled as basis of charge. And therefore, when you are looking at things like scope of total income, of course, all this we will try to supplement in a latter part, looking at 9. But if you were to just look at 4, 5 and the subsequent provisions, these are the basis of charge. So your scope, your status in 6, 4 bringing the charge put together is the integrated code. Of course, there are issues with regard to the ever stretching envelope of income tax laws, and therefore to what extent you could stretch it. And when you say the act extends to whole of India, and you are looking at the legislative competence and the issues of extraterritoriality, we'll discuss it as we walk along in this very long journey of 40 part webathon series. So without much ado, over to you, Sunil ji.
Thank you, Aseem, and I first of all must congratulate Rajji for organizing this excellent thought process which has gone into it. I'm not aware as to who was instrumental in this, whether Mr. Raj Chawla was there, ya Sunil ji hai, ya Aseem. So all three were probably involved in that. So I must congratulate all three of them. And let me see if I can do some justice to the topic which has been given to me. Initially, when Mr. Raj Chawla spoke to me and along with Mr. Garg, well, I didn't realize the complexity and the volume of section 3, 4 and 5 and 6. Honestly, this is one area where you talk of one thing at a time. You generally don't start section wise. I mean, generally, we have attended or addressed conferences running into hundreds and thousands, but then honestly speaking, I never have heard of any course being conducted in a manner where you are taking it up section wise. Now, you can have one session on, say, AOP, you can have one session on deeming provisions which is there, or any such one area residential status, you can have one 2 or 3 hour seminar on it. But to have them sequentially on all the sections was definitely a wonderful idea. So I probably take it. I mean, I asked Rajji as to what was the idea and why this is being done. He said probably, the idea was to apprise our young members who have joined the profession to have a different perspective of the income tax law vis-a-vis what they have been studying up till now or the way they have been looking at it up till now. And in fact, it will be my endeavor to start from the very basics, and then I'll try and build it up, the complexity which is there, and then we'll come to the various key issues which has been raised by Mr. Sunil Garg. I'll try and live up to his expectation for whatever he has pointed out in his opening remarks. Now, I don't know whether is my screen visible? I mean, are you able to see the PPT?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please continue.
Okay. Now, if you look at it, the income tax is a very easy subject or easy thing to look at. Why? I mean, because for computing a tax liability, you just require two things. You require income, and you require the rate of tax which is to be levied on that particular income. Now, I'll come to section wise. This is something which I studied for the first time when I was in college, and I'll share my personal experience. Our lecturer came to the college, and he started with section 2, and he started with definition of agriculture income. And for 3-4 lectures, the agriculture income only went on. And believe me, after first week, I thought probably in income tax we study agriculture income. Honestly, I mean, this was my impression of income tax when I studied it for the first time, because the manner in which the lecturer put it in the course, I thought probably we are studying more of agriculture, and I thought probably income tax is nothing else but agriculture, and we'll have to go to some field and we'll have to carry out some agriculture activity. Now, then I possibly tried to decipher as to what the provision is, I mean, what the act is about, what the law is about, and what the whole concept of the subject is about. And then I realized there are only two things. One is that we need to know what is the income of the person. And the second thing is we need to apply the rate of tax on that particular income has to be applied. Now, as was, I think, Ahuja Saab had very well explained, very well elaborated, that rate of tax is not prescribed under the Income Tax Act. Now, we have two things which we require for computing the tax liability, out of which one crucial thing, that is rate of tax, is not prescribed at all in the Income Tax Act at all. The rate of tax is not there at all. The rate of tax basically comes from the Finance Act, which is enacted everywhere, the Finance Bill, which is introduced and which is enacted every year. It comes from there. Now, so now we have, is it still okay, or there's some problem in the screen?
Kindly make it full screen. It is visible, but make it full screen.
Make it full screen. So I'm getting two screens. Okay. Is that better now?
Yes,
Is
sir.
it all right? Or, I had intentionally. Okay, so I'll convert this also to full screen, or no? No, this won't get converted probably. Right. Now, so now the thing is that the rate of tax is not there under the Income Tax Act. The Income Tax Act basically contains provisions for computation of income and other relevant provisions. I mean, besides computation, it has administrative provisions, there are penal provisions, there are prosecution, appellate provisions. So all these things are contained in the Income Tax Act. The rate of tax, we take it from the Finance Act, which is passed every year. Now, so if we have two things, we'll be able to compute the tax liability of any SSC. Now, as I think Ahuja Sahab was pointing out in his opening address, or in his inaugural address, in StreamYard, I'm not very comfortable, I'm not very familiar, because in Zoom you are able to see the participants, you know how many participants are there, you can see their faces. In StreamYard, possibly I'm not aware as to how to access those screens, because you are not able to see to whom you are talking. So this becomes a little difficult to communicate like that. Anyway, so I am able to see only, I think, Raj Chawla ji and Sunil Garg ji. So I'm missing my friend, dear friend and chairman of the session, Aseem Chawla ji, I'm missing from here, I don't know. Anyway, and I'm not able to see the participants at all. So now, okay, now once we have this, the screen would move with this or not. I think I'll have to go back to this. Okay, so now, now once we have this income, the concept of income and the rate of tax, the government has to levy, any state, any government of any state or nation has to levy tax on their income. Now the question which arises is, who should be taxed? I have come to know what is my income. I have been able to compute my income. I know the rate of tax also which I'm going to charge. Now my issue is that who should be taxed? Who should be liable to tax? That means if I'm talking of the Indian context, is this levy on all Indians? And when I say all Indians, means what? All citizens of the country or residents of the country? Or does it include PIOs also? Now, PIO, I'm sure we all know the concept. It has been defined in the Income Tax Act also, in that explanation 215E, which is there. Now, there the PIO has been defined as a person of Indian origin, means a person who's either of the parents or grandparents were born in undivided India. He is termed as a person of Indian origin. So now the issue is that Indian Income Tax Act, is it applicable only to Indians, or does it apply to worldwide, all the, entire population of the world? I mean, I have liberty to go beyond my boundaries also and levy tax on the foreigners also. Now, if I'm talking of Indians, then what do we mean by Indians? Because Indians would be present in India, they'll be present abroad also. Some of them would be citizens of India, some of them must have become PIOs. So I need to define that who has to be taxed. So under income tax, besides income and rate of tax, I also need to define as to who would be taxed under these provisions, whether it will be Indians or foreigners, and then specifically what Indians and what foreigners. Now, and then the last thing which I need to define is, besides computation of income, I also need to define as to which income should be taxed or which income would be taxed. What do we mean when I say which income is to be taxed? As Garg Sahab had pointed out in his brief opening remark, when we are talking of which income should be taxed, means the income which is being generated from India, that means where the source is from India, or are we referring to income which is a global income, wherever it is being generated, the tax should be paid on that? Now, generally accepted proposition of imposition of tax is either the source of the income which has been generated or the residence of the person to whom that tax has been levied. So the source and residence, we'll be coming back to the source and residence when we talk of section 5 and section 6. We'll come back to these two sources, these two principles of imposition of tax which is there. So now what we have is, we have a situation where we need how to compute an income. Now that computation provisions are obviously contained in detail, heads of income, it is already contained in